court file, and then we help you decide, figure out what papers you'll need to file. You definitely want to get legal advice because you want to make sure that you get all of your defenses on paper. Again, if you have an identity theft defense, you definitely want to tell people, the court and the debt collector, I'm the victim of identity theft, and then you should be able to defeat the case.
Okay. And what do you do in the case of, you talked about the bank account and everything. In that case, in a tough economy, how are you able to help them in this area?
Sure. So people's bank accounts can get frozen if someone has a judgment. They can use that judgment to freeze the bank account. One approach is definitely to see if you can try to undo the judgment through the process I mentioned, going to court, getting more information, getting legal advice. Fortunately, there's actually also a relatively new state law called the Exempt Income Protection Act. And while people are sorting out this whole process, because it does take time, this law actually protects a certain amount of money in your bank account so that you have something to live on while you're trying to go through all of that whole other process.
That's interesting. Can you tell me a little bit more about NEDAP? First of all, what does it stand for, and
Sure.
where are you located? Yeah.
Sure. We're located on 176 Grand Street, and NEDAP stands for the Neighborhood Economic Development Advocacy Project. And we're really, we work on community economic justice issues. We work a lot with community groups to try to eliminate harmful and discriminatory economic practices that harm communities, particularly low-income communities and communities of color in New York. And through our hotline and through a community law clinic we also work directly with low-income New York City residents to give them legal assistance on debt collection and other kinds of issues.
Okay, and so what have you seen is the most problem right now? Like, what are the main things that you're working with in terms of, or what are your clients facing now?
I again would say that it's this abusive debt collection practice that we're seeing around the lawsuits. But, they really wreak havoc on people's lives because, when people find out too late that there's already a judgment, then they're scrambling to deal with frozen bank accounts, wages being garnished, and judgments being on their credit reports. And what we see is that it just spirals out of control for a lot of people where they can't maybe pay their rent because their account is frozen, or they're trying to get a job and the employer has looked at their credit report and seen a judgment that the person didn't even know about. So it really affects all aspects of their lives, and we try to help them as much as we can to undo it and restore them to a better position. But it is hard for people, and it's something that shouldn't be happening in the first place.
Right. We're hearing a lot about foreclosures. I think you might have mentioned it at some point. Are they facing that, your clients?
Yeah, there's been a lot of problems with foreclosures. It's something, NEDAP's been around for 15 years, and we've actually been working on foreclosure issues for a long time. Again, from a policy standpoint, we don't handle those issues on our hotline, but it is something that we hear increasingly about. But there are a lot of resources around the city for people who need help, who are facing foreclosure. There are housing counselors out there who can help them. There are groups that can help people if they're actually being sued in a foreclosure action.
That's interesting because you're working primarily with low income, but it sounds like a lot of what you're talking about, many different groups are faced with right now.
Right.
So what does someone do if they don't fall within the category of your...
Sure. Well, our website, nedap.org, again, we have a lot of great self-help materials under the resources for consumers section on our website. There's a lot of information on people's rights against debt collectors. There's information on how to get a free copy of your credit report, how to dispute errors on your credit report. So I would refer people there, and hopefully that'll get them started.
That's wonderful. And so what can you give us an example of someone that you've worked with and kind of where they are now, a client?
Sure.
To give us an idea of what you kind of offer? Sure.
So a typical caller might say, I'm trying to get a loan, and the lender, the potential lender pulled my credit report and I just found that there are all these judgments that I never knew about. So we tell them, well, this is how you get more information about those judgments, and these are the kinds of papers you can file to try to undo those judgments. We can actually, there are a lot of, there's some free legal clinics around the city we can refer people to. Sometimes we can help people to actually draft those papers and get them get them processed. Then once people are able to undo those judgments, and the grounds would be that they never had notice, in the first place, that would be some of the grounds. Then hopefully we can help people to get the judgments off of people's credit reports, which improves their credit dramatically, and hopefully get them back in a place where they might be able to then, get an affordable loan, get a job, find an apartment, that sort of thing.
All things needed to live here. So, wow, thank you so much for sharing this information. So how can people contact you if they need to?
Sure. If you're a low-income New York City resident and you need legal advice on one of these consumer financial justice issues, you can call our hotline, the New York City Financial Justice Hotline, at 212-925-4921, 4929. Okay. And actually, there's also a great resource that's made available by New York City. If you call 311, you can also get connected to a financial empowerment center that offers free financial counseling to people as well.
Wonderful. Susan Shin, NEDAP, thanks for joining us. And thank you for joining us. We'll be back after these messages.